Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the Managing Director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. As the title of this video suggests, we're discussing the possibility of a quote-unquote tourist tax here in Thailand. I was a bit flabbergasted, but I recently read an article in the Bangkok Post. It's bangkokpost.com. Article is titled, Collection of 500 baht Fee from Foreigners Starts Next Year. Quoting directly, the Tourism and Sports Ministry is poised to start collecting a 500 baht tourism fee for a, quote, tourism transformation fund, unquote, next year, with the budget following a co-payment model. Quoting further, Yudasak Supasorn, Tourism Authority of Thailand, TAT, governor, said the fee collection of 500 baht per person should start next year with the aim of collecting 5 billion within the first year, assuming 10 million foreign arrivals in 2022. Well, one, that's a big assumption. I mean, 10 million foreign arrivals, that's a lot of folks showing up. And frankly, I don't know how that's going to happen if things don't pretty fundamentally change with respect to the rules for coming into Thailand as they currently stand. Now, this Tourism Transformation Fund, they get into, a whole bunch of what I can only describe as sloganeering and kind of using some buzzwords, social enterprises, biocircular and green economic model, environmentally concerned tourism. Nothing wrong with any of that. But what I thought was interesting is, and quoting directly again from this article, helping the country restructure from mass tourism to high value or a biocircular and green economic model. How does that work? I'm really curious to know. High volume tourism has worked for Thailand. There's no doubt about that. 40 million people came in 2019. It made up between 17 and 20% of the overall GDP. It's a staggering amount of GDP. It's almost 1/5 of GDP. If you consider, and I'm speculating here, but I think I'm making a pretty good educated guess. If you consider all the knock-on economic activity that comes from, let's call it conservatively 17% of overall GDP, I think you make up the extra 3%, and therefore 1/5 of the overall economy was coming in from the quote-unquote mass tourism model that we saw. Now, I do understand where authorities, the government, whoever, the private enterprise, whatever, the numbers are not going to be immediately back to what they were in 2019, quite frankly, probably anytime soon. And therefore, you have to be realistic, and you have to, as I heard said back home when I was a kid, you got to plow the fertile field. You do the best with what you've got. So I understand numbers are going to be lower. No one's blaming anyone. I'm certainly not blaming anyone for numbers overall being lower. What scares me is that this is a paradigm shift. Again, just to quote that again, helping the country restructure from mass tourism, unquote. Why are we getting away from mass tourism? Mass tourism has helped Thailand tremendously. There's a good argument to be made that mass tourism may have helped stabilize the baht currency in the aftermath of the 1997 financial crisis. I mean, I'm curious. Look, and there's argument, reasonable people can disagree on whether or not tourism is great for an economy. I certainly think a strong manufacturing base is always a good thing. I don't think Thailand should be wholly dependent on tourism. My point being, though, is this seems to just be a theme where the bureaucracy is just deciding, yeah, we don't need any of that mass tourism anymore, so we're just going to move over to this model now. And that's scary to me, because I don't think people are really, especially if it is the case that this is being driven by folks that basically their entire career has been spent working in the government. Now, albeit working in the government perhaps in the tourism sector, but government work is government work at the end of the day. And as I've noted in other videos on this channel, there's nothing wrong with folks that work for the government. I deal with them all the time. They're fine. But they have a certain perspective. They have a certain paradigm. And they can't see past it. And quite frankly, private enterprise folks can't see past private enterprise. They only see things in the world of private enterprise. They're not always right about everything. That's not my point. But to have, quite frankly, the bureaucracy driving the ship on this and to be driving it away from quote unquote mass tourism, I have to say, why are we doing that? And is this the best idea? Now, meanwhile, this was in the Bangkok Post. Otherwise, it's already well out there. It's well known, I would say. It's out in the open sphere. It's in the commons, if you will. Again, I really hope people in an authority position over this maybe take a moment and rethink of the optics on how this looks. We've gone almost 18 months with very low, like subsistence to the point of non-existent tourism levels for the overall tourism industry. It has not been good for the tourism industry by a long shot. We've discussed 2 to 3 million layoffs in tourism industry alone, according to the Tourism Council of Thailand. I've done videos on that. On top of that, the numbers are staggeringly off. And therefore, one of these solutions to this is to tax what few tourists we're going to have coming in starting in January 2022. Is that really the best idea right now? Maybe we should let them get in the door and just spend some money and get some tax off the VAT and the various corporate income taxes and things like that come in from them just being here. That would be perhaps another way of dealing with this. That being said, I found this really concerning. Again, it's from the Bangkok Post, bangkokpost.com. Collection of baht 500 fee from foreigners starts next year. I really hope this is sort of rethought, because I definitely think that there could be some serious negative ramifications from implementing a policy like this.